Hello everybody, my name is Edson. I'm the owner of the channel Meu Querido Firebird SQL, my lovely Firebird SQL database in Brazil, and I'll talk about Firebird SQL. And I would like to explain you what's the difference between of the architectures. Firebird SQL has three main architectures, which is the Super Server, Super Classic, and Classic Server. What's the difference between them and which one is the best for the Firebird 2.5? Okay, let's see what's the difference between them. So a lot of people are still using the Firebird 2.5 till now, since 14 years ago. This is the oldest version we have with largest use scale. And nowadays we have more advanced versions like 4 and 5. The version 3 is near to be discontinued. But as a lot of people still use the version 2.5, we need to talk about the architecture. What's the best for you and why? So let's talk firstly what's the difference between the architectures at any version, okay? So the first version is Classic Server. The Classic Server is the version which is going to put up for each connection a different process. So when you go to the text manager and you see a lot of similar process of FB innet server, you can be sure that you are using the Classic Server. What's the problem of Classic Server? The problem of Classic Server is that it's going to use more memory than it's necessary. Why? Because each connection is going to put up a different process. So each process must have all the information of database in the memory. So you are going to use more memory to store more details which could be shared for any connections. So when you use the Classic Server, you are allocating different spaces of memory for each connection. This is a good idea, but not so good way to manage, because if you want to stop this Firebird service, for example, you need to turn off all the connections one by one using a command prompt, for example, or deleting from task manager. This can be a little bit boring. Okay, so let's talk about Super Server. Super Server is a different architecture of Firebird, which is going to run only one process to every connection. And in this process, every connection is going to share the same memory area. So if you run a report in the connection 1, the connection 2 is already going to be able to access this same piece of memory to get the information from the cache and not from the disk. This is a good idea on Super Server. But the problem is that in Firebird 2.5, this architecture is not good. I'm going to say you why some minutes later, okay? So let's talk about Super Classic. Super Classic is the middle of the two architectures. You have the Classic Server, which is going to run one process to each connection. You have the Super Server, which is going to run only one process. And then we have the Super Classic, which is going to run one process like Super Server, but it's going to store different areas of memory to each connection. So the cache area of Super Classic is different for each connection. Each connection has its own area of cache in the memory, okay? Not a shared memory to everybody. So most part of times Super Classic is the best choice if you have the Firebird 2.5. If you have the version 3 and over, you have to look at another kind of parameters like hardware, the behavior of your system with the database. So this is not so easy to choose. There's no a best one, but you can be sure that biggest part of time Super Server or Super Classic for 3 and over, okay? But 2.5, biggest part of time you are going to have a good experience using the Super Classic for 2.5. The Super Server is a problem in 2.5 because 14 years ago when the Firebird 2.5 was launched, there were no support for multi-cores in Firebird SQL. So Super Server has no ability to work with multiple cores of your server, and today it's very common. And if you want to explore all the memory of your server, you need to use at least the Super Classic, but maybe you are not going to be able to do it if you have large servers. If you have a small server, okay, it's pretty normal to use all memory with your Firebird SQL configuration, the firebird.conf, but you need to make it carefully, okay? So the conclusion is you need to try firstly the Super Classic for 2.5 and Firebird 3 and over. You need to try Super Classic or Super Server, and you are going to see what's the best experience. So This is not enough to have a good performance in Firebird. You need to change a lot of parameters in firebird.conf. You need to know about your hardware, if it's well configured, if you have a slow or a fast disk. This is much important, and not about specification. You need to know how many records your Firebird is able to insert, to update, to delete by second. Okay, this is the real metric we use to define if the disk is fast or if it is slow. Okay, so this is the conclusion of the video, and if you like it, please click on like and share it with your friends. This is much important for me. I'm trying to do my best here with my English, my poor English. I'm sorry for that, but I hope I can help somebody with this information. If you want to know something else about Firebird SQL, please put it on the comment or talk to me through my email or Telegram. You can find me there. Okay? So see you. Have a nice day and a nice week. Bye bye.